I never thought my life would come down to a number written on a hospital form. The room smelled like antiseptic and cold metal. The doctor's lips moved, but all I could hear was one sentence echoing in my head. You need surgery within 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That was the deadline between me and a future, or a wheelchair. My parents sat on either side of me, stiff and silent. My mother kept adjusting her dupatta, not once meeting my eyes. My father stared straight ahead, jaw tight, like he was already annoyed by the inconvenience of my illness. "How much?" my father finally asked. The doctor told him the amount. It wasn't small, but it wasn't impossible either, not for a family like ours. My parents owned land, jewelry, savings. They had spent more than this on weddings, on renovations, on my elder sister's overseas education. The doctor left us alone. That's when my mother sighed and said the words that still burn in my chest. "We just don't have that kind of money." I turned to her, shocked. "Ami, what?" My father cleared his throat. "We've talked about it. We can't help you." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it sounded unreal. You can't or you won't. My mother finally looked at me then. Her eyes weren't cruel. They were worse, detached. "You're unmarried. Your future expenses will be endless. We can't drain everything now." Drain everything? I felt my heart drop. This isn't about luxury, it's surgery. I might not walk again. My father snapped. "Don't exaggerate. Doctors always scare patients." I wanted to scream, to beg, to remind them I was their daughter, the same girl who skipped university to help at home, the same girl who never demanded anything. Instead, my mother said, "Allah decides everything. If it's written, it will happen." That was it. No argument, no fight, just faith used as an excuse. When we reached home, my sister avoided me. My parents went on with dinner like nothing had changed, and I lay in my room, staring at the ceiling, wondering when I had become so disposable. That night, someone knocked on my door. It was my younger brother, Hamza, the broke one, the one everyone mocked for failing exams, for switching jobs, for never settling. He sat beside me quietly. I heard what the doctor said. I swallowed. "You heard what they said too." He nodded. His eyes were red. "I don't have much," he said slowly, "but whatever I have, it's yours." I shook my head. "Hamza, no, you barely—" He cut me off and pulled out a small envelope. Inside were bank slips, loan papers, even a crumpled receipt. I sold my bike. I borrowed from friends. I took an advance from work. My hands started shaking. "It's not all of it," he added, "but it's a start, and I won't stop." I looked at my brother, the one my parents called a failure, and felt something break inside me, because the people who gave me life had refused to save it, and the one with nothing was giving me everything. But what I didn't know yet was the dark reason my parents refused to help, and the secret sacrifice my brother was hiding would change our family forever. The next morning, I woke up with a strange mix of hope and guilt sitting heavy on my chest. Hope because Hamza had stepped up when no one else did. Guilt because I knew the cost of his kindness would crush him. He left early for work without eating breakfast. I lay in bed, staring at the envelope he'd left on my table, wondering how a boy everyone called useless could be the only one who valued my life. Around noon, my mother entered my room. She glanced at the envelope. Her eyes narrowed. "Where did this come from?" she asked. I hesitated. "Hamza." Her face hardened instantly. "What nonsense is this?" "He's helping me," I said quietly. "He's trying to arrange the surgery." My mother laughed, not kindly. "Helping you? With what money?" Before I could answer, she walked out, calling my father's name. Within minutes, both of them stood at my door. My father picked up the envelope, flipped through the papers, and his face darkened. "Did you ask him for this?" he demanded. "No. I said. "He offered." My father slammed the envelope onto the bed. "Return it." I stared at him. "What?" "This is not his responsibility," he snapped. "He needs to think about his own future." "And what about mine?" I asked, my voice trembling. My mother crossed her arms. "You are being dramatic. People live with worse conditions." I sat up slowly. "Then why won't you let him help me?" That's when my father said something that made my blood run cold. "Because we already have plans for that money." "What money?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, my mother spoke. "Your sister's engagement is fixed. Her fiancé's family expects certain standards." I felt dizzy. "You're saving money for a wedding?" My mother avoided my eyes. "We can't embarrass ourselves." "Embarrass yourselves." I laughed bitterly. "So it's shameful if she doesn't get a grand wedding, but acceptable if I can't walk." My father's voice rose. "Enough. Don't turn this into a competition." "But you already did," I whispered. That evening, Hamza came home late. His shoulders slumped, his shirt wrinkled from exhaustion. Before he could even enter his room, my father called him into the lounge. "Did you give her money?" my father asked. Hamza didn't lie. "Yes." My mother gasped like he'd committed a crime. "Have you lost your mind?" "She needs surgery," Hamza said firmly. "And you think you're some hero now?" my father scoffed. "You can barely survive yourself." Hamza clenched his fists. "At least I'm trying." My father stood up. "Return whatever you gave her immediately." "No," Hamza said. The room went silent. "I won't," he repeated. "She's my sister." My father stepped closer. "If you continue this foolishness, don't expect help from us." Hamza looked at them, truly looked at them, and something in his eyes changed. "I never did," he said quietly. That night, Hamza didn't eat dinner. I heard him coughing in his room long after everyone slept. I didn't know then that he was hiding something far worse than exhaustion, something he was willing to destroy himself for. The next day, I overheard a conversation that revealed why my parents valued money over my life, and why my brother's sacrifice was far more dangerous than I ever imagined. I wasn't supposed to hear it. If I hadn't woken up thirsty in the middle of the night, if the hallway light hadn't been on, if my parents hadn't assumed I was already asleep, maybe everything would have stayed hidden a little longer. But fate didn't give them that mercy. As I walked toward the kitchen, I heard my name. "She doesn't need to know," my mother said in a hushed voice. I froze. My father replied, "The papers are almost ready. Once it's done, it's done." My heart started pounding. "What about her treatment?" my mother asked. "We'll manage something cheaper," my father said impatiently. "Physiotherapy, medicines, surgery is unnecessary." Unnecessary. My hands began to shake. "And Hamza?" my mother added. "He's becoming a problem." My father sighed. "Let him struggle. He'll learn reality soon enough." I leaned against the wall, dizzy. "What if she finds out?" my mother asked. "She won't," my father replied firmly. "We're her parents. She trusts us." That was the moment something inside me shattered. The next morning, I confronted them. "What papers?" I asked, standing in the lounge, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. My parents exchanged glances. "I heard you last night," I continued. "What decision did you make about me?" My mother tried to smile. "You misunderstood." "No," I interrupted. "Tell me." My father exhaled sharply. "We're transferring the small plot in your name to your sister." My ears rang. "What?" "It's better this way," he said. "She's getting married. She needs stability." "That land was given to me by Nana for my future." My mother's tone hardened. "Your future is uncertain. Let's be practical." I felt sick. "So you're selling my safety net to pay for her wedding while refusing my surgery?" My father raised his voice. "Stop accusing us. We raised you." "And now you're burying me alive," I said quietly. That's when Hamza walked in. He looked pale, too pale. "What's going on?" he asked. I told him everything. His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue with them. He just nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. I turned to him, confused. "Hamza?" "Come," he said softly. "Let's go outside." We sat on the steps. The morning air was cold. "I'll arrange the rest," he said. "How? You've already done too much." He looked away. "I'll manage." That night, I noticed something strange. Hamza came home late again. He went straight to the bathroom. I heard the tap running for a long time. Then I heard him gag. I pushed the door open. He was gripping the sink, face ghost white. "Hamza," I whispered. "What's wrong?" He straightened quickly. "Nothing." There was blood in the sink. "Hamza," I cried. He wiped it away. "It's just stress." But I knew. This wasn't stress. The next day, I found hospital forms in his jacket, blood tests, medical evaluations, and one word circled in red ink: donor. My chest tightened. My brother wasn't just selling his bike. He wasn't just taking loans. He was selling himself, piece by piece, to save me. But when I confronted him, he finally revealed the one secret that terrified me more than my illness, a decision that could cost him his life. I didn't sleep that night. The word donor kept flashing in my mind like a warning sign I couldn't ignore. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Hamza's pale face, the blood in the sink, the way he'd said, "I'll manage," like his life was disposable. At dawn, I went straight to his room. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, lacing his shoes with shaking hands. "You're not going anywhere," I said. He froze. I held up the papers. "Explain." For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he sighed and sat back down. "It's not a big deal," he said softly. I laughed, a broken sound. "You're registering as a donor behind my back, and it's not a big deal?" "It's legal, safe. People do it all the time." "You're already sick," I snapped. "You're coughing blood." "That's just weakness," he replied, quickly, too quickly. I knelt in front of him. "Hamza, what did you sell?" His jaw tightened. "Hamza," I repeated. "My kidney," he whispered. The world tilted. "You," my voice cracked. "You sold your kidney?" "Not sold," he said, forcing a smile. "Donated, with compensation." I grabbed his arms. "For me?" He nodded. "I didn't want you to know," he said. "You'd try to stop me." Tears streamed down my face. "I am stopping you." "You can't," he said, firmly. "The surgery is in 2 weeks." I shook my head violently. "Cancel it! I won't take your life to save mine." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and his voice dropped. "They already know," he said. "Who?" "Ami and Abu." My heart shattered. "They know?" I whispered. "They saw the papers," he said. "They didn't stop me." I stood up slowly, my hands trembling with rage. "You let him destroy himself so they could save money?" Hamza looked down. "Abu said, 'I'm young, I'll recover.'" Recover? From losing a kidney? From risking his future? From being treated like spare parts? I stormed into the lounge. "How could you?" I screamed. My parents looked up calmly. "He's choosing this," my father said. "We didn't force him." "You didn't stop him," I cried. My mother shrugged. "At least one of you will survive." That sentence crushed me. "So I'm worth a surgery only if it costs you nothing, and he's worth nothing at all?" My father stood. "Enough drama." "No," I said, my voice steady now. "This ends today." I went back to Hamza. "We're leaving," I said. "Where?" he asked. "Anywhere that isn't here." "But the money." "I'll live without surgery before I let you die from me."
He grabbed my hand. "Don't say that." I looked at him, tears burning my eyes. "You were willing to give me everything," I whispered. "Now let me protect you." That night, we packed quietly. No goodbyes, no explanations. Just two siblings walking away from the people who were supposed to protect us. But what I didn't know was that my parents had already taken the money from my brother's donation agreement, and they weren't done betraying us yet. When we reached the hospital the next morning, we learned the surgery couldn't be canceled, and the truth about who legally owned my brother's body nearly destroyed us both.
The hospital lobby was too bright for the kind of truth waiting for us. Hamza held my hand tightly as we approached the registration desk. His palm was clammy, his fingers trembling slightly. I could feel how weak he really was now that adrenaline wasn't masking it. "I need to cancel a donor procedure," I said to the nurse. She typed something into her computer, frowned, and looked up. "Name?" I told her. Her expression changed. "I'm sorry," she said carefully. "You can't cancel it." My heart skipped. "Why not?" "Because the consent has already been finalized. The compensation has been released." I stared at her. "Released to whom?" She hesitated, then turned the screen slightly toward me. My father's name stared back at me. I felt like I'd been punched. "That's not possible," I whispered. "He's not the donor." The nurse swallowed. "He's the legal guardian listed for the agreement." Hamza went pale. "I'm 26, he said hoarsely. "How is he my guardian?" The nurse lowered her voice. "Your father submitted documents claiming financial dependency and medical decision authority." I couldn't breathe. "They lied," I said. "They forged control over him." "I'm sorry," she replied. "Legally, this procedure is locked unless the recipient hospital board intervenes." That's when I heard my mother's voice. "See, everything is settled." I turned around. My parents stood there calmly, like they were attending a wedding rehearsal, not finalizing the sale of their son's body. "You took his money," I said, shaking. "You took money from his organs." My father adjusted his coat. "We managed it responsibly." "For what?" I screamed. My mother replied without shame. "The wedding expenses were higher than expected." Hamza let out a broken sound. "You sold my kidney for decorations?" he whispered. My father snapped. "Lower your voice. This is a hospital." I stepped between them. "You don't own him." My father's eyes hardened. "As long as he lives under my name, I do." That sentence rewired something inside me. I turned to the nurse. "Who's the supervising surgeon?" Minutes later, we were sitting in a small office. The doctor listened quietly as I explained everything: the pressure, the sickness, the coercion. When Hamza started coughing uncontrollably, blood staining his handkerchief, the doctor's face changed completely. "This procedure should never have been approved. He's medically unfit." My parents protested. The doctor raised his hand. "Enough. I'm freezing this surgery." My knees nearly gave out. But my father wasn't done. "You can't do this," he said. "We already spent the money." The doctor stared at him. "Then you'll answer to the ethics board." Security escorted my parents out. I watched them walk away without looking back once. Not at me, not at Hamza, not even in shame. That night, Hamza was admitted for evaluation. I sat beside his bed, holding his hand, listening to the steady beep of the monitor. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I wanted to save you." I pressed my forehead to his. "You already did." But the doctor returned with grim news. "Your condition," he told me gently, "has progressed faster than expected." My chest tightened. "If you don't get surgery soon, you may not survive the year." I looked at my brother, weak, pale, exhausted, and realized something terrifying. I had saved his life, but I might lose my own. Just when all hope seemed lost,
a stranger stepped forward with an offer, one that would expose my parents publicly and force them to face the consequences they tried so hard to escape.
I was sitting alone in the hospital corridor when the stranger approached me. He was tall, neatly dressed, with tired eyes that looked like they'd seen too much human damage. "You're the patient," he said gently. "The one who needs surgery." I nodded, wary. "Who are you?" "My name doesn't matter," he replied, "but I was on the hospital ethics review panel." My heart started racing. "I read your file, and your brother's." I swallowed. "Then, you know my parents abused their authority," he finished. "Yes, and they're not the first." I looked down at my hands. "I don't want revenge." He smiled faintly. "Good, because this isn't about revenge. It's about accountability." He sat beside me. "There's a donor registry connected to this hospital. Anonymous, fully screened, no coercion, no money involved." Hope flickered painfully in my chest. "But," he added, "there's a condition." I braced myself. "What kind?" "The truth must be documented, publicly, in the hospital's internal records, which means your parents' actions will be officially recorded." I didn't hesitate. "Do it." By evening, things moved fast. The hospital froze every financial transaction connected to my parents. An inquiry was opened. My father was summoned by the ethics board. And my brother? He slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. The next morning, my parents arrived, furious. My father stormed toward me. "What have you done?" "I told the truth," I said calmly. "You humiliated us," my mother hissed. "Do you know what people will say?" I met her eyes. "They'll say you sold your son." She slapped me. Security intervened immediately. My father shouted as they dragged him away. "After everything we gave you!" I whispered, "You gave us pain." That afternoon, the donor match was confirmed. A woman, 42, 2 children, brain dead after an accident. Her family chose to donate. I cried, not from relief, but from the weight of someone else's loss saving my life. The surgery was scheduled. Before they wheeled me in, Hamza leaned down and pressed his forehead to mine. "You're going to live," he said. "So are you," I replied. When I woke up hours later, the pain was unbearable, but I was alive. Hamza was beside me, tears streaming silently down his face. "You made it," he whispered. So did he. 2 days later, the news broke. Not on television, but in whispers, calls, and messages. My parents' names were attached to an ethics violation. My father lost his standing in the community. My sister's engagement was called off quietly. No one wanted a family known for selling blood. My mother came once. She stood at the door. "We did what we thought was best," she said. "For who?" I asked. She didn't answer. She never came back. Hamza and I were discharged together. We had nothing. No home, no inheritance, no parents. But we had something stronger, each other, and a future built on truth, not blood. But just when we thought the story was over, a letter arrived that revealed the final, cruel twist, the one thing my parents never expected to lose.
The letter arrived on a quiet afternoon. No return address, no familiar handwriting. Hamza brought it in from the gate and placed it beside my tea. By then, I could walk slowly without assistance. Every step still hurt, but it reminded me I was alive, something I almost wasn't. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a single-page document, a legal notice. My heart pounded as I read. The land my parents had secretly transferred, the plot my grandfather had gifted me, had been challenged in court by the hospital's ethics board. The transfer was declared fraudulent, signed under coercion and medical manipulation. The land was being returned. To me. I covered my mouth, tears spilling over. "They lost it," I whispered. Hamza read over my shoulder, then laughed softly, the first real laugh I'd heard from him in months. "They tried to save face," he said, "and lost everything instead." But the letter didn't end there. A second page was attached. My parents were required to repay every rupee taken from the donor agreement. Failure to do so would result in criminal charges. "They'll have to sell assets," Hamza murmured. I felt no joy in that, just closure. A week later, my father came to see us. He looked smaller, older, stripped of authority. He didn't sit down. "I came to say goodbye," he said. I waited. "We're leaving the city," he continued. "People don't forget." "No," I said quietly. "They don't." My mother stood behind him, eyes lowered. For the first time, she looked ashamed. "We never meant to hurt you," she whispered. I met her gaze. "You just didn't care if you did." They left without asking for forgiveness, and for the first time, I didn't feel the need to offer it. Months passed. I recovered. Hamza found stable work with a logistics company. Honest work. No shortcuts, no shame. I began physical therapy, then remote studies, then life slowly stitched itself back together. One evening, Hamza sat beside me on the roof, watching the sunset bleed into the sky. "You know," he said, "they always said blood is everything." I smiled faintly. They were wrong. He looked at me. "Family isn't who gives you life. It's who refuses to let you lose it," we finished. We sat in silence. Two siblings, no inheritance, no protection, no parents standing behind us. But something far more powerful stood between us. Loyalty, sacrifice, love without conditions. And that was the one thing they could never take. Sometimes the poorest hands give the richest love, and sometimes the people who raise you are not the ones who deserve to keep you.